Ange, how are the injuries looking ahead of this weekend?
Wilson, doesn't look good. We're still waiting for it to settle down and get sort of all the information, but he'll definitely be out for sort of the next period. Bissouma trained today, so he should be available for tomorrow. Timo was okay, recovered okay. Everyone else from the game that didn't train, who played last week, is good.
What's the nature of Odegaard's injury?
It's hamstring.
Hamstring.
Yeah.
And Richarlison, how is he coming on?
He's a fair way off. I think you should stop asking me about him until I give you a bit of an update, because we've been doing it on a weekly basis. He's still not training with the first team, so he's still a bit off.
Okay, one win from your opening 4 Premier League games. To what extent does that increase the importance and the pressure going into this game?
Doesn't change, it's the same. Whether you win the first 4, I hate to think you're going to this game thinking you can lose it. I think you try and win every game, and we're at home, and we've also played well in those 4 games. So that's the first thing. We've got to perform as we have been, and as I said in the league, that performances have been really consistent in terms of dominating games, but we haven't really got the reward for our dominance, and that's the area we're kind of still trying to focus on in terms of in that front third, to make sure we get rewards for our good play.
You go into a period now where you'll play 5 games in just over 2 weeks. How important do you think this period is?
I think that's going to be our period for the next, it's probably till the end of January, so we kind of planned for that. This is probably the shortest in terms of turnaround, because it's a Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. Most of the others are kind of Sunday, Thursday, Sunday for the most part. So probably a day less in this little 3-game stretch. But it's the good thing is we've got some game time into some guys on Wednesday night who hadn't played for quite a while, so they're ready and available should we require them, and I think that's going to be the key for us, the ability to sort of bring guys in who are fresh but also have played recently.
And in terms of the schedule, a lot's been made of the new structure of the European competitions and potentially players striking, not being consulted. Where do you sit on that and the amount of football players are playing at the moment?
I think I said last week, I think it's something that needs to be looked at. It's not just, obviously it's not just club football, it's international football, it's a requirement. It's as much about how much recovery players get even between seasons. I think that's where the biggest problem lies for me anyway, is that if you give players enough time to recover between seasons, then it gives them a better opportunity to play the games that seem to be in the schedule now. But it seems like that the windows of recovery for players are getting smaller and smaller, and I definitely think that's an issue.
Hi, Ange. Good afternoon. Good seeing you again.
You too.
For the Tottenham fans, obviously winning a trophy this season would mean a lot. How important was Wednesday's win? Also in terms of the spirit after the result against Arsenal last weekend?
Yeah, it's important. It's always important. You kind of know in a cup competition, if you don't win, you don't progress. So that's the first thing. And obviously, progressing to the next round is great. The performance, as I said on the night, we had to work really hard. It was a different kind of performance. We just had to hang in there, and we did. And then, I think showed tremendous spirit at the end there, and some really good sort of input from guys coming on to make sure we won the game and progressed to the next round.
And the fact you brought on 2 subs that scored and eventually won the game, how significant is it that you have this squad depth, especially that this season you're back to Europe and you have more options?
Yeah, it will be important for us. As I said, that's why I think Wednesday night, we've got a lot of players who played 90 minutes or 70 minutes who haven't played a lot recently. So, Archie, Lucas, Ben Davies, Rody got another 90, which is important. Even Destiny's 45 and Dom's sort of 60, 70 are really important for us, kind of minutes-wise. Because, like I said, it's great having a squad, but if you're throwing in guys who haven't played for 3-4 weeks, it's very hard for them to contribute, because they're not sharp as they should be match-wise, but also physically, you're worried. So just getting more guys game time, and we'll get plenty of opportunity, is going to be important.
Every Premier League game is difficult. If you look at Brentford, how unique is what Thomas Frank has been achieving there, and how challenging the task will be this weekend?
Yeah, great challenge. Thomas is, he's turned them into, a really sort of difficult and a challenging team for everyone in the league. You saw them last week against City. I thought they played really well. Took the game to City, and it's always a challenge. But that's the Premier League. I don't think there's any games you go into thinking they're going to be any easier than any others. And we have to be ready for Brentford tomorrow. And but we are at home, and we've just got, like I said, we've got to make sure we continue with our strong performances in the league, but turn those performances into results.
Hi Ange, hope you're well. There was a lot of excitement around Tottenham last season among the fan base. Obviously, because of results, maybe some of that excitement has subsided so far this season. So how important is it to get a result tomorrow and maybe bring the feel-good factor back around the club again? Yeah,
look, as I said before, I just think if you start thinking in those terms, then like I said, you miss the priorities of what you need to do to stay competitive in this league, and that is every week is a challenge. So, even if we had got 4 wins so far, which we could have with our performances and the feel-good factor is around, dropping a game tomorrow wouldn't make us feel any better. So the challenge is always the same. I think that's the beauty of the competition we're in. Every week you've got to be up for it, and we've got to make sure we're doing that tomorrow.
And you mentioned about performances this season. The fans loved what they saw last season in terms of the style of football. Obviously, so far this season, because of results, maybe not quite managed to hit those sort of levels and that style of play that we saw last season. So have you managed to put your finger on why we've managed not to, maybe not quite hit the level that you saw last season?
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by level. I certainly think our first 4 games we've been as dominant as we were last year. For any series of games, all 4 games, I think we've outpossessed the opposition. We've created double the chances of the opposition. We've played the game mostly in the opposition half, but because you don't win, people kind of always look at the outcomes, which is understandable. But for me, I think we need to maintain our focus on what's important to us and the principles of our play. And as I said, if we just show a bit more sort of conviction in that front third, I'm sure we'll get the rewards for it soon.
You mentioned Dominic Solanke earlier. Obviously, a lot of pundits have been talking about him and the price tag that came with him coming to the club. What have you made of the way he settled into the club, and what more is there to come from him?
He settled in really well, and there's plenty more to come from him because he got injured. So he's only sort of played 2 and a bit games for us, and he just needs to sort of get some games under his belt. But we've already seen in the games he has played, he's going to be a real sort of asset for us, and I've got no doubt that he'll be a huge contributor.
That's great. Best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ange. There was some boos from the stand, and you've already talked about it, the substitution in Coventry. But I just wanted to talk about if that negative sort of fan sentiment, that there's some division in the fan base, if that seeps into the environment you have and the player environment.
Well, it doesn't seep into my environment. I've always said fans are more than sort of free to feel what they feel. I'm not going to dictate the mood of what they do, but it doesn't impact me or what we're trying to achieve. I think you get carried away in both ways. As I said, we've just got to stay sort of clear-eyed and focused on what we're trying to achieve here and the kind of football team we want to be. And if that's swimming against the tide, sometimes that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. Makes you stronger.
You said you don't really use social media last week, and but I'm sure a lot of your players do. Do you have to talk to them a little bit about the sort of maybe environment and not letting that get to them and sort of sticking to the plan that you guys have?
Not specifically. I'd like to think players are well aware of the pitfalls of falling into that world. But everyone's got their own choices around that. I think if you start seeking validation from anonymous people, then I think you're going down a rabbit hole that's probably going to end up in tears rather than anything else.
Obviously, you're making big changes at the club with personnel and style of play and all this kind of stuff, and there's a lot of historic, changes you're making. Do you sort of feel like maybe that's part of the tension, that there's a lot of changes going on, people aren't getting used to it, and it's not all supposed to be going up and upward?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think whenever there's change, real change, significant change. I think it does. It unsettles people because people, I guess it's just human nature. You kind of want comfort and security. But, you know, again, I came in here to try and do something that hasn't been done for quite a while. And my view is when I've done that wherever I've gone, is that you can't just think that me walking in is the answer. You know, you've got to change things. And when that happens, it's unsettling for people, both internally and externally, but I think it's a necessary part of, you know, trying to achieve what we need to.
Everyone talks about the first 10 games that you had, which were excellent, but you know, it was that sort of maybe a false dawn a little bit at the time, and maybe it's going to take longer for that sort of run to be consistent across a longer period?
No, I don't think it was a false dawn. I think we deserved it. Whether we played well in the first 10 games, we had, I guess I could sit down and go historically as to why after that 10 games, when, you know, we lost probably 3 of our back 4 for 2 months after that, and matters for pretty much the rest of the year. So, but if people want to sort of just look at it in isolation of just results, yes, 10 games we did well, then afterwards we didn't do well, but yeah, I think there was legitimate reasons for that.
Just a quick one on his Basuma. Is he in a position, if you need him to start, or are you going to be cautious with him? Or?
No, well, like I said, he trained today. He trained fully. It is his first session, so we'll just have to see how he pulls up. But yeah, again, if he's available, he's available.
And kind of on the aspect of change and changing the club, you're probably aware you're the first manager that's lasted a full season in the last half a decade at this club.
Yeah, they had a cake for me the other day.
That's nice. I mean, on that kind of topic, how difficult is it to kind of put in real long-term change at a club that obviously needs another change, or a more long-term change of direction, when it's had so many changes and different routes over the years?
Look, it's not difficult for me because that's how I've always worked. I keep saying I know I'm not going to be here forever, but I work like I will be, and I'll make changes that I think are going to set the club up for success for a sustainable period. So every decision I'll make is along, you know, that backdrop. But you know, sometimes I think if you sort of get caught in this kind of timeline scenarios, I just think you end up making results that potentially, okay, short term might feel good, but long term you're not going to get to where you want to, and that's all I'm interested in. I just want to, like I said, my brief and my focus and my ambition is to bring success. Every decision I make is against the backdrop of that.
If you'll permit me one kind of non-football question, I just wanted to ask. It's only because Liz talking about social media made me think about it. When you were talking about Brennan, you mentioned, I think you said, I can switch off and my one follower doesn't notice or get upset by it. Do you actually have like an account that you occasionally dip into that world in?
No, I don't. Look, there was years ago I used to be on just generally because I liked the information that I was getting initially, especially through Twitter, as it used to be called. I thought it was a great resource for information. There was some pretty smart young people on there as well, especially around the football analytics and stuff that I used to get excited about. But mate, it went downhill pretty quickly. And to be fair, the last 2-3 years, I just don't look at it anymore. I just don't think there's any use in it for me anyway, in my life. And yeah, my one follower is gutted about that.
Thank you. James, please.
Hi, Ange. You talked a lot about efficiency in the final third and needing to improve that. I know it's only been a small injury for Solanke, but how disruptive has that been sort of to your planning?
Well, it has on the back of Richie not being available either, because I mean we were kind of working on, you know, we thought Richie'd be available round 1, and then he's had the setback obviously, which has put him out. So yeah, that hasn't helped us, because like the whole plan was, you know, to have kind of 2 really robust strikers who could, you know, really give us a real threat up front. And you know, with both of them out, it's kind of made it a little bit difficult. We've had to juggle things a little bit. You know, played Sonny through there, played Decky through there, Kulusevski through there, so it hasn't been smooth. But again, I'm hoping that's sort of behind us now. Bit of luck.
And obviously he came in for a big fee, club record, 65 million. Is that an adjustment that he'll have to make to sort of deal with the expectation that comes with that? Yeah,
I don't know, because it's, you know, people were just so quick to judge, mate. It's a small sample. The guy's played less than 2 games for us. I mean, if he's gone 15 games without a goal, then I can answer that question. Or 15 games and he hasn't really contributed, or he's down. But you know, I just think, you know, take a breath. You know, do a bit of yoga. Just think about the world for a second, and then make an assessment after that. We don't have to rush to judgment all the time, because, you know, the alternative is he may have got off to a great start and, you know, was fit and scored in all 4 games and he's flying, and then goes through a patch like all strikers where he doesn't score. And I just don't look at those things. What I look at is, you know, he's come in, he's fit in really well, but obviously and quite logically, you know, he's picked up, you know, an injury that's disrupted the way he probably wanted to start his career. But, you know, we've still got plenty of time for that.
That idea of taking a breath and doing a bit of yoga, do you think that applies maybe to the perception of the whole team as well? Do you think there's been a bit of an overreaction to the first sort of 4 games?
No, I think it's like I've said a few times, it's just the way of the world today. I think people would rather be first to make a judgment, even if they're wrong, rather than wait for somebody else. You know, I think it's just the way we live our lives these days, that, you know, there's far more judgment than sort of real reasoned opinion or analysis, but that's just the way of the world, so you've got to live with that.
And just finally, you're facing Ivan Toney obviously tomorrow. The club were linked with him a lot. Was he a player you ever actually looked at?
We're facing him tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, ignore me, sorry. Sorry.
We didn't, so yeah, just to finish it. But in case they signed him overnight, I was going to go in there and do some new plans. That's all, because we planned without him. But
yeah, did you ever look at him before you went to
No, yeah, we did look at him. But I mean, the reality is, and I think I've said that Dom was the one I wanted, and it's kind of, we took, you know, pretty much the whole summer to get him in, because he was the one that kind of fit the profile of what we were looking at the time.
Thank you.
Finish the section with George, please.
Hi, Ange. Just going back to Dom, obviously he hasn't been here very long, but I guess strikers, they do want that first goal. Do you still sense kind of a calmness in him, and he's not sort of, doesn't feel sort of over anxious about trying to get that first goal and get away?
No, like I said, he's just played a couple of games, not even full games. So no, I haven't sensed that. I don't sense that. I don't. You know, I think in his mind, he just wants to be in a good physical condition so he can contribute. That's where he's at, and that's where we're kind of the space we want him in. And like I said, hopefully, you know, he gets a bit of confidence out of the game time he got during the week, and, you know, builds on that tomorrow. And I'm sure as the season goes on, he'll be a real, you know, strong contributor for us.
And yeah, you mentioned the Wednesday game. You made the 8 changes, and you explained afterwards those 8 players, I guess, needed the minutes. Now they've got the minutes, are we sort of less likely to see as many changes during the Europa League and the Carabao Cup going forward?
Just depends how we're going. Like I said, it was a bit different this week because we got a day less than sort of Europe is Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. So this is Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. So with a day less, and that's quite significant because Wednesday to Saturday, you know, there are guys who had to train today who played, you know, the other night, a day before a game. So it was always, we're always going to try and make as many changes as we could Wednesday night just to protect the lads, but also yeah, get some game time with the guys. So, but it'll be sort of horses for courses. We'll see how we're going through the next period.
And I'm sure you saw overnight Graham Arnold's left his role as the Australian manager. I assume you're not going to put your name in the ring, but just generally, what did you make of that decision?
Yeah, I'm not really close to it, but you know, he's had a you know, really you know, great stint with as a national team boss. You know, he took him to the World Cup, got the best ever results in the World Cup. So you know, and I think for anyone, sort of, you know, when you manage your national team, it's a proud moment. I'm sure he's proud of his achievements, but you know, like all of us, he passes on the baton now to hopefully somebody who can take the nation forward.